This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
All right, it's great to be back after a day away. Shout out to everybody that was at the Nisku Energy Show. The inaugural Nisku Energy Show sold out on the 14th of May. Unbelievable. A packed house talking about the now and the future of Alberta energy, the role that Alberta will play in Canada, and of course a lot of talk there about the Mark Carney federal government, certain cabinet appointments, environment minister, natural resources minister, energy minister, and what it'll mean for Alberta. We'll get into that today. Dr. Bob Murray, political scientist, is going to join us for the better part of a half hour on the show, and we'll get into what Mark Carney's cabinet says to Alberta, what it says to the rest of the country, and then most interestingly, I think right now, Bob is an expert in foreign policy. That's his jam, and there wasn't a lot of talk about Canada's foreign policy outside of the relationship with the United States through this election campaign. So what does the cabinet selection tell us? What are the key positions, the key appointments tell us about how Mark Carney will approach Canada's international relationships a little bit differently? That's where we'll go. We're also going to talk during the show today to two men who are about to embark on something that I can barely wrap my mind around. For charity, they're going to run 10 marathons in 10 consecutive days in 10 different provinces. 10 in 10 in 10. There's no catch. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's an unbelievable achievement that they're set to embark upon. I guess maybe we reserve the word achievement for when they complete it, but I'm looking forward to picking their brains in just a bit. And we'll lead off today in 30 seconds from now with Philippe Fournier. Everybody was talking about Philippe's polling aggregator, 338 Canada through the campaign, and he's got some new numbers that he's taken a look at on the future of Alberta and Saskatchewan in or outside of Canada. We'll see what the tail of the tape looks like in 30 seconds. First, I want to let you know this episode happens with the presenting sponsorship of Alberta's top online real estate school. You can find them online at relo.ca. That's RELO.ca. Shout out to a couple new friends I met yesterday that are working in commercial real estate. Both of them graduates of, yeah, you got it, Relo. Online real estate learning for the bold and ambitious, no matter where you are in your career. They're going to help you find the next level, and it all starts with their pre-licensing courses. Here's how it works. You got to get licensed. Then, of course, you're ready to start practicing. You want to kick off your career on the right foot, and that's why their team of expert instructors factors in big time. Available around the clock. They've got weekend webinars to make it nice and easy for you. These pre-licensing courses, a fundamentals course, a practical course, are going to set you up for success selling commercial or residential real estate in the province. You can get all the information. Pick your course. The best plan of action, of course, all starts with a visit to relo.ca. Philippe Fournier, aside from being a physicist and a rocket scientist, is also Canada's foremost polling aggregator. He doesn't conduct the polling himself. He takes a look at what pollsters are doing, the questions they're asking, and the results they're gleaning across the province, and then he helps us understand what it all means. And we're always grateful for his visits to the show. Haven't had a chance really to chat with you in the last little while because everybody wants to talk to you, buddy. Have you had a chance to catch your breath after this federal election? It was a wild 6 weeks.
Oh, yes, I went into a cave, and of course, it was the end of my college semester. You said I am a physics teacher still to this day, and so the election is now gone, and I took some rest, and I was ready to go back on the beat, and it's a pleasure to see you, Ryan, today. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing very well, thanks, pal, and we appreciate you joining us. We're going to be talking federal politics all the way through, and maybe I'll wrap with a couple questions for you. We got Dr. Bob Murray in the house, political scientist, but I want to ask you about the numbers that you've most recently released, and people should and can subscribe to your email list. It keeps us in the loop, and you've been taking a look at the future of the prairie provinces, so to speak, and what pollsters are determining about Albertans and residents in Saskatchewan and how they feel about their future in Canada.
Well, okay, so there were two polls released. It was last week from the Angus Reid Institute and Nanos Research, so among the top firms in the country, about Western alienation and the feeling of maybe Alberta and Saskatchewan could organize a referendum to separate from Canada. So, of course, I know you've talked to Danielle Smith and you've talked to many people involved in this movement in, I want to say Western Canada, but it's mostly Saskatchewan and Alberta. And the numbers are extremely revealing. Sorry. So, if we look at the numbers from Angus Street Institute, we have 19% of Alberta respondents. So this is, of course, weighted by age, gender, and region, that would definitely vote to leave the Federation. That's 19%. An additional 17% would lean towards leaving. So if you add those up, that's 36%. And then lead towards staying, 8% definitely would vote to stay in Canada, 52%. So about a third, roughly, of Albertans right now feel that if there was a referendum on secession to leave the Canadian Federation, they would vote yes. Which is interesting because it's about the same fraction we measure right now in Quebec. And of course, Quebec has had a long history of flirting with separation, not successfully, I would add. So these numbers were quite interesting, and the breakdowns per region, per gender, per age, all reveal the mindset right now of Albertan voters after this federal election.
Philippe, how does that stack up to how folks are feeling in Saskatchewan?
I would say it's similar. The numbers in Saskatchewan are similar, so it would be 33% instead of 36% in Saskatchewan, although the sample size was smaller. So we could say the feeling is it's quite similar, and the same kind of share of voters say they would definitely vote to stay. So in Saskatchewan, it would be 58% that would definitely vote to stay. So the alienation is a bit stronger in Alberta than Saskatchewan, but we're talking, just a few points here and there.
I might be wrong, and I'll look to our Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power in just a quick second, because I know we'll have people that are watching us on YouTube from Saskatchewan, but it hasn't exactly been as much of a topic of conversation. It hasn't exactly led the headlines as much in Saskatchewan as Alberta, has it? Or maybe are they just not getting their fair share of the spotlight?
Well, that would be part of it. I think it would be fair to say that the sentiment of potential separation in Alberta has been brewing for many decades, and I think it has a longer history than in Saskatchewan. Although I'm very careful with my words, I know there are some passionate, I don't want to say separatists, but nationalists, let's say, in Saskatchewan as well. But Alberta, I think the base is more organized. And I know they've wanted to make this a Western Canada movement, but the numbers that we had in not just last week, but in recent months show that in Manitoba and British Columbia, there's really no appetite for such adventures. So right now, the focus is mostly on Alberta.
Jillian's wondering, has anybody in landlocked countries or areas ever tried to separate before? She says, I'm just trying to establish the level of stupidity that we're dealing with here. I guess maybe not separate. We've seen I don't know if I want to use this comparison, but we saw the USSR break apart into a bunch of different nation states. I don't know if that's a fair comparison. It's a bit of a different scenario.
Probably not. And the thing is, here's the deal. And I know, guy from Montreal, francophone, and comes to an Albertan show to talk about Quebec separation in comparison to Alberta separatist movement. The thing is, it's the only precedent that we have. In your introduction, I saw you posted the comments from Yves-François Blanchet saying, well, Alberta doesn't really have a culture outside of oil and gas. He's just teasing you, right? He's trying to be provocative on purpose. So don't bite too much on this, I would say, dear Albertans, Alberta friends. But
you're referencing what we call our Real Talk pre-roll, which is what people see if they join our live stream a little bit early before the show. And you're right. We had Danielle Smith in studio. I think it was the 8th of May, if people want to check out that episode. And I think she knows that she's being trolled, because she kind of smirked and she got her shots in at Quebec as well. But maybe that is the only comparison. I will say this, Philippe, did you say that the number of Albertans polled that said that they would definitely vote to stay is 52%? That's not exactly like a ringing majority. It's technically a majority, but...
Well, it's a majority, but the thing is, so I'll say this. There's a huge difference, and I speak from experience. I grew up in Quebec City and live in Montreal. I grew up in the 80s and 90s at the height of the separatist movement in Quebec. I can tell you from a poll that has 35% of respondents saying, yes, I would vote to separate, and 50% plus one voting yes on secession in ballot boxes. It's light years away. So I'm not saying that this won't happen. I'm not saying it's marginal, because it's not marginal. The politicians, federally, provincially, cannot ignore this share of voters. But we also have to remember that there's a lot of uncertainty going forward. Now, the poll from Anger Street also asked, okay, so if Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives had won the election, would your feelings be the same? And 3/4 said, oh no, we would vote to stay then. So I think this is also a bit of a reaction to this fourth Liberal mandate that Mark Carney just won last month. And it's not also, we're not strangers to the fact that Mark Carney in Alberta, while true that he only won 2 seats, one in Calgary and one in Edmonton, but they had over 28% of the vote. And you know how many times that happened in my lifetime? 0. That's the highest share the federal Liberals got in Alberta in my lifetime, and I was born in the 70s. So it's, to say that there's a broad movement that will take Alberta away from the Confederation, we've seen it in Quebec, and it didn't work. So that's why it's not like I take it with a grain of salt, but we have to relativize. One more thing, if I may, Ryan.
Yeah.
In Quebec, we have left-wing separatists. We have right-wing separatists. We have centrist separatists. We have environmentalist separatists. In this poll, which had a breakdown with provincial vote, so obviously there's only 2 big parties provincially in Alberta, the UCP and the NDP. Among UCP voters, 65% in favor of separation. Among NDP voters, 2%. So this is a conservative phenomenon. So it's not that separatists in Alberta are not spread across the spectrum. NDP voters, basically, it was 97% against separation and 2% for and 1% undecided.
Philippe, you're telling me that 65% of UCP voters polled would separate Alberta from Canada?
Which explains a lot with your Danielle Smith interview, right? Which explains a lot why Danielle Smith gives a little rope to these people, because her base is fracturing.
There's trouble on the horizon, buddy.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
That's the case, they're going to start bleeding supporters within the party. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of intelligent people that understand the economic, real estate, and other bottom line implications of this type of tomfoolery, and that's going to cost this party. That blows my mind.
Yeah, it was very surprising. So it was 65% of UCPers in favor of separation, 29% against. And it was a fair sample, 790 Alberta respondents. So that's margin of error about plus or minus 4 points. So it's clearly a majority. But again, a movement to separate has to come from all sides. It has to come from unions. It has to come from civil society. It has to come from everywhere. This is only a UCP and conservative movement, which, and I'm not going to give any lesson on the history of Alberta parties, but the UCP is a coalition. We know this. And those 2 parties, the Wild Rose and the PCs back then, did not get along that much. They only got along because they wanted to win. And at this point, there would be a danger for the party to fracture.
Yeah, if I'm a UCP supporter, a UCP member in particular that is not keen on Alberta leaving the country, I am sounding the alarm right now, because that is a tough look for this party. And then the NDP, what did you say, 2% in favor of separate? I mean, it's just the difference there is so striking. But we so appreciate your time, and I don't want to take too much of it, but I do want to circle back on the folks that are leaning one way or another. And I guess my pointed question is, do they recognize, do they have the full facts? Does anybody have the full facts right now? I'll make a commitment to this audience that we will get Jeff Rath on this show if he accepts our invitation. We're looking at next week to bring him on, but this is the guy that's kind of driving this Alberta Prosperity Project. This is the guy that said he had the delegation that was going to go down and meet with the Trump administration and the like. An unelected official, obviously a lawyer that's kind of taking this upon himself. But some of the policy proposals that I've seen from this guy include a separate Alberta keeping its Canada pension plan and keeping its Canadian passports. It's ridiculous. Like, you're either leaving or you're not. And I'm wondering with the folks that are leaning either way, and they're telling the pollsters that that's how they're feeling right now, if it's just because they're acknowledging that people don't even know what this would look like.
We've seen that movie in Quebec is, would you keep the Canadian dollar? Would you keep your passport? And the federal government was like, if you're leaving, you're leaving. And by the way, you're leaving with a share of the federal debt also. So some nasty negotiations going ahead if that vote ever happens and is successful. But also, again, reaction to a fourth mandate for the Liberals. Mark Carney has his work cut out for them. And Pierre Poilievre, by the way, is running in Alberta in a by-election, probably in June or maybe in July or August. If we cross-stab these numbers, probably there's a lot of Alberta separatists living in that riding, in that federal riding that Pierre Poilievre would run in. So he's going to have to answer some questions as well and face those voters.
Philippe, I mean, I think that the riding choice for Poilievre, described as you just alluded to, like described by everybody as one of the safest, this Battle River Crowfoot riding, one of the safest conservative ridings in the entire country, but it could create a quagmire for him if the majority of people in that riding, which I suggest may be the case, I'm not going to speak for them, but the majority of people may be among those Albertans that would vote to leave. And if all of a sudden the leader of the opposition who wants to be prime minister and who's got to take the position of keeping Canada together, and he has stated plainly that his Canada includes Alberta, that's a tough situation for him, man. And conservatives have no problem. This is not an insult. This is not a slight. This is me looking at history. Conservatives have no problem eating their own if their elected representatives don't represent the perspective they expect them to, right?
Oh, absolutely. The leash is very short after defeat. And I don't have to tell you how wide Monsieur Poilievre's lead was before the campaign. There's a lot of soul searching to be done in conservative circles after this defeat. So,
no kidding. Hey, Philippe, it's great to see you, my man. I want to encourage people to check out 338canada.ca. We'll link to it in the show notes. You've got a fantastic Substack going, including, like we said, a wonderful interview that you did with Eric Grenier on the Numbers podcast, Wexit, they're calling it. Obviously, Alberta and Saskatchewan wants out, and some interesting perspectives on what's happening in Quebec as well. That's 338canada.ca, where you'll find our good pal Philippe Fournier. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Ryan. Speak to you soon. Take
All right,
care.
man. Sounds good. We'll pick up where we left off with Dr. Bob Murray in just a second, talking about federal politics, Mark Carney's cabinet, what it means for foreign relations outside of we're not exclusively talking about the relationship with the United States. There's a few hundred other countries as well, and Canada does business with a lot of them. Canada's military is involved in coalitions and action around the world. I mean, what is it going to look like under this new prime minister? Plus, we'll get to your thoughts on this separation talk. I saw somebody in our live chat talking about border lines. I think it was Dawn that was in there talking about Sask, Alberta, Toba, or something like this. It was like this coalition of Saskatchetoba. Yeah, I think we're going to have to come up with a catchier name for all of this. The proponents of Alberta leaving are going to have to come up with a catchier name. Are you a little surprised at those UCP numbers? 65%?
I am very surprised at that. Back to something Rath said, though. I don't know if Canadians will have to surrender their passports if Alberta separates. Because remember in like the Brexit thing, like nobody had to surrender citizenship there. Like a lot of people kept passports, and then
are British people using I'm embarrassed. I don't know this. Our chat will know this. Are British people?
I think it's against I think it's against constitutional law to take people
But they're leaving the country.
Yeah, but they would still retain Canadian citizenship, I'm pretty sure. You can't take away citizenship, right? I'm not sure you can. There has to be a really good reason to do it. And I remember with Brexit, there was all this hubbub, the same way we're talking about what do I do with this passport? Because with the EU, you were free to go anywhere. You had a passport to pretty much all of Europe.
And work
and I'm pretty sure a lot of people maintain most of that, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not totally sure. I'm not an expert on it, but I was looking at something yesterday.
Okay, I just our intern that's working for us right now has just returned the research. Folks, this is ChatGPT, so take it for what it's worth. After Brexit, and this is referencing Wikipedia, British citizens did not need to physically surrender their EU passports, but they automatically lost EU citizenship rights when the UK formally left the EU on January 31st of 2020. It meant that the UK passports no longer conferred the benefits associated with EU citizenship, like freedom of movement, the right to work and reside in EU countries without a visa, and the ability to vote in EU elections. Many British citizens sought to retain their EU rights by acquiring citizenship in EU member states. So between 2016 and 22, about 80,000 Britons obtained European passports through naturalization or by claiming ancestry. So in other words, while UK passports remain valid for international travel, they no longer grant the automatic rights previously enjoyed under EU membership.
There was another country, maybe it was the Czech Republic or the Netherlands or something where they changed something as well, and people kept it. I just don't see let's say we have a referendum, you vote yes, I vote no, Alberta separates. I just don't see, say it's 53% to 47, those 47% just lose Canadian citizenship because they live here. Like, I see a lot of people making some waves about that.
Alberta Girl says the EU is an economic union, not a sovereignty arrangement. Canada can and probably would void Alberta's passports. Tracy says if Alberta separates, they'd be severing their Canadian citizenship. Says, I can't think of one reason why we would want to do this. That is what it is. You're leaving the country. So I just think that, I don't know. There's so many implications here. We'll get these guys on the show. I'm happy to have the conversation. We're obviously not going to see eye to eye, and that's fine. I'm sure it will be wildly entertaining. If it wasn't, Jeff Rath, saying in an interview, and I'm not going to speak for him, I'm quoting what he's telling journalists, but he says, he's as serious as a heart attack about leaving, but I don't know that it's a serious proposal to suggest you're going to keep all the benefits, but withdraw all of your contributions and your responsibilities, right? You're going to stay in CPP? What? The Premier doesn't even want to stay in CPP. What do you? Anyway, I'll save it for Jeff Rath. So that's coming up. Dr. Bob Murray in just a quick second. We'll get to more of your comments as well, those of you that are joining us live. If you're watching this or listening to this later, like 95% of you will, you can always send us an email to talk@ryanjespersen.com or leave a comment on our YouTube episode. We'll get to as many of those as we can. Every week, courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper, we take a step outside of the news cycle. And I know that that's a relief for many of you who are sick of the news cycle right now. You just want to get out to the mountains and you want to breathe fresh air. And we're going to tell you the best things, the best adventures that you can take right now in beautiful Jasper National Park, the crown jewel of the Canadian Rockies. It's MyJasper Memories, presented by Tourism Jasper, and this is an incredible time of year to get outside. I was just spending some time, look at this. I was just looking back on some of our own family memories. I want to show you, if you're watching on YouTube right now, this is an Instagram post that I put out there a few years ago. We absolutely love our time in this national park, and that includes time in the boats. That includes time on the hiking trails. Here we are at Spirit Island, just a magnificent spot with huge cultural and spiritual significance for First Peoples. You're never going to forget time out in the mountains, these awe-inspiring landscapes with the little ones. It is a perfect time of year to get out there. If we're on a wildlife watch, by the way, this is when all the little ones are coming out as well. You're going to see all the elk out there. If you're lucky enough, you might see a baby bear, a fox. If you're really lucky, you might see a wolf pup or two. Rafting is wide open in Jasper right now. Our friends at Jasper Raft Tours ready to go, and there's nothing like a beautiful float on that Athabasca River. They can kind of cater it based on how you're feeling. If you want the real sort of whitewater rapids, they can find that for you. If you just want a chill float as well, that's something that they can cater to. There's nothing like family time in Jasper. And of course, you can always, look to the resources that they've got on the website as well. You can check out jasper.travel. Our friends at Tourism Jasper have done a fantastic job of organizing all that for you. Great ideas like those float tours. They've got great trail resources as well. What about picnics by the lake? You pick up a couple sandwiches, cut up a watermelon, you just go sit there, just listen. Watch those birds, like these amazing birds that you're going to find in there. The wildlife resources there are incredible. They've got planetarium shows if you want to blow your mind once the sun goes down. They've got kid-friendly horseback riding, which is a super fun way to get the family out together and see Jasper in a bit of a different light. The Jasper Sky Tram is wide open right now if you're looking for those alpine views. A wonderful way to summit without breaking a sweat. That's my favorite part about it. They've got a wonderful little bistro there up at the top of the Jasper Skytram. You can take some time up there, capture some incredible photos. And of course, keep your eyes open, especially if you got the little ones in tow, and see if you can find Jasper the bear around town. The official ambassador for the town of Jasper and Jasper National Park. There's nothing like a family photo, maybe a selfie with Jasper the bear. We'd love to hear your Jasper memories. You can tag us in your Instagram posts, your posts on X, or even Facebook using the hashtags MyJasper and Real Talk RJ. You, like the Fletcher family the other week, could be featured in an upcoming episode of MyJasper Memories, proudly presented on Real Talk by our friends at Tourism Jasper. As we say hello to our pal and political scientist, Dr. Bob Murray. It's nice to have you on the show. Last time we talked to you, it was pre-federal election, and you were sharing with us some perspectives on Canada's international relationships and the like. A lot has changed since the last time you joined us in studio. The Liberals survived. I'm not sure that everybody saw it coming.
I was going to say, what did change?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people feel like not much changed. I got an email here from Darian that I thought might be good to kick off this segment here. We sure appreciate when Real Talkers take the time to contribute to the editorial perspectives. He says, listen, in 2 days, Mark Carney appoints a housing minister, talking about former Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson, who nearly tripled housing costs when he was Vancouver's mayor. He says the Prime Minister has announced he will not introduce a budget this year. I know that Conservatives are choked about that. And he's appointed Stephen Guilbeault to his cabinet, not as Environment Minister, but still. Guilbeault's already gone on the record saying no to any new pipelines, saying that Canada has the capacity that it needs. Worth noting, this is Jespo, not Darian, that Guilbeault is not calling the shots on pipelines, but still, I know that it's irritating people that he's commenting on it. Darian says if the Conservatives were elected, they're not going to be going on summer vacation. Poilievre said they wouldn't. And they'd put affordability, they're tough on crime policies, and promoting a new jobs bill out there within the first 100 days. Says, gosh, I wish I had that government, Darian does, instead of a government that wants to do more of nothing and go on vacation while Canadians suffer. Liberal commentators in media are justifying the no budget approach at this point. Do you buy it?
No, I think, coming into what has been promised by Mr. Carney, I think it was an opportunity to change the channel and to increase transparency. I think one of the pieces was that he was challenged by in trying to differentiate himself from the Trudeau years was, how somebody with significant financial and economic chops was going to be substantively different. And one of the things, and I think one of the opportunities would have been being able to clarify and articulate a fiscal vision for the country that would have been transparent to folks to know, first of all, what our actual fiscal position is, other than knowing it's not good, and how it is that he is going to start tackling some of those big questions while also delivering on some of the promises that were made. So I see it as a missed opportunity, but simultaneously, I think it's going to feed very much into the commentary of more of the same, which is really unfortunate for him because he is working so hard to try to differentiate himself. But this is one of those moments that I think he swung and missed.
I want to keep my first question to you about Carney's cabinet relatively general. What jumped out at you as significant, and what were some of the key storylines that you were following? Any surprises?
Well, I think, Guilbeault was going to be in cabinet by virtue of the role that he played in the election and helping to deliver Quebec. And so unfortunate for Westerners to see that face again, but I'm not necessarily surprised. I think the appointment of Minister Anand in Foreign Affairs, I think, is a very clear signal that Foreign Affairs is going to be taken a little more seriously with somebody that's proven herself exceptionally competent in cabinet.
So that's obviously a big swipe at Melanie Joly. Where do you think, let's cover first where you think she fell short in that role?
Well, I think she became the face of trying to gallivant, a lot of travel without much substance. I mean, she did wear, and I don't necessarily intend to swipe at her. I think it's more that she was the face of a government that did not take foreign policy seriously for a very long time, if ever. And so at some point when you are traveling and the tensions globally are increasing and you are not empowered with anything of substance coming from Canada, as other states are taking the lead from the U.S. and the message of the U.S. of whether it's increasing defense spending, whether it's being more serious about diversifying multilateral or trade relationships, etc., we did exceptionally little. And so I think what you're seeing is, first of all, the change in foreign affairs sends a pretty clear signal, and who was put into foreign affairs, I think, signals that this is going to be a serious portfolio.
What's an example of a nation that you think did particularly well ticking those boxes that you just described?
Well, I think we have seen since January, since Trump's inauguration, I think we've seen the UK taking things very seriously. We've seen France playing a significant role in trying to facilitate diplomatic relationships. We've certainly seen a lot of action and talk in Germany. And meanwhile, we have been saying a lot, but really have not been doing a lot. And of course, it's exceptionally difficult to do anything when in the middle of probably one of the most important existential, political, diplomatic, economic crises of our history, we went into an election, and we're not really able to do anything for a month. And so coming out of that, I think there's a lot of folks looking at Canada and saying, okay, Mr. Carney, you have said that you're going to do things and you're going to step up. Now it's time to actually act. The time for talk is over.
Okay, so you like Anita Anand in that role as Minister of Foreign Affairs. What is her appointment there? Number one, what do you like about her? What about her proof of performance? What about her track record jumps out to you? And number two, what does her appointment to that cabinet post tell you about how Mark Carney sees Canada's international relationships?
Well, I think her track record has been somebody that has credibility in the portfolios that she holds, and also has been somebody that has been able to get things done in the portfolios that she holds. You know, remember when she was put in as Minister of National Defense, she was put in at an incredibly contentious time for what was happening within the Canadian forces, and at least was able to move some things along. I think she is seen by a number of Liberal Party supporters, insiders, and a lot of folks in Ottawa as somebody that is capable of getting things done. And I think changing that channel for Mr. Carney is to say, this is a portfolio that we are going to need. Now, what's really interesting as well, though, is that there has been a separation on the U.S. side. So Dominic LeBlanc has been tasked really with being the primary conduit on the U.S. relationship. Some of the U.S. trade and global trade pieces have also been separated out. So clearly some of those diplomatic pieces around multilateral institutions, which will become more important for us, not less important, are going to have to be invested in by Minister Anand as she takes on the portfolio.
I'm just referencing some reporting here from the Indian Express. You can read it at indianexpress.com, noting that Anita Anand becomes Canada's first Hindu woman foreign minister, talking about what it means for the Canada-India relationship. A strained relationship right now, fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely fair to say. And of course, right now, in recent weeks, the attention on the tensions and violence, frankly, between India and Pakistan means that if we are going to play any role whatsoever in trying to advance diplomatic solutions and bring parties to the table to de-escalate those tensions, we're going to have strong relationships, as well as the economic relationship. You know, since Mr. Trump was inaugurated, we've heard a lot of folks saying all Canada has to do is diversify the markets it deals with. It's not like flipping a switch. And that is a billion-plus person market that we are likely going to want to have some strong relationship with, and therefore a strong relationship is going to have to be developed coming out of recent tensions. I've
got a lot of questions for you about the United States, but I don't want to lead with it on purpose because we've been talking so much about the Canada-U.S. relationship for obvious reasons. It's our most important relationship, but there are others. There are many, many others. What's another international relationship that you're keeping an eye on that you think would be front and center on Minister Anand's desk?
Well, Canada's relationship with China is going to be a significant question mark. So we saw this past week the Chinese ambassador on some of our Sunday shows here in Canada talking a little bit about how he envisions and how China envisions the ability of that relationship to evolve. That's also been an incredibly tense relationship, and for good reason, with suspicions of foreign interference and economic interference, et cetera. And so really what I think part of the question is in our foreign affairs is, as we see world order shifting away from just, U.S. hegemony and unipolarity toward a more multipolar model, that typically requires states, including even those that are still going to be friendly with the U.S. and reliant on the U.S., to diversify those relationships with other major powers. And when we look at the other major powers that we will have to have relationships with, we have had recent tensions with them. And so how far do you go in being able to forge relationships for economic benefit while still bearing in mind the security risks, the economic risks, the political risks? And that's a very delicate tightrope to walk. But I think that's also a reminder that the world is going to be substantially different than it has been really for the last 30 years. And so preparing for that of what are the limits of engagement while still protecting our own national interests. And that's going to be a really interesting thing for the government to be able to figure out, particularly when it comes to its relationship with China.
How much is military spending in a factor into, do you think, the message that Canada is sending to the rest of the world? Obviously, it's something that the White House is keeping a close eye on. But what about, internationally speaking, if we're looking at the entire planet?
Well, I mean, within NATO, for NATO members, it's going to be incredibly important. And that is not just a calculus of the U.S. Bear in mind that Mr. Trump has been the most vocal about states not paying their way, but other NATO allies have vocalized their frustration with Canada in the past.
Like, Trump's not wrong on this.
No, I don't think he is wrong on the fact that we have been laggards on defense spending. We have let our national defense get into a perilous state. And it is not so easy to simply throw money at the problem and try to pull ourselves out of it. That is not the way it works. We are so far behind in our national defense that it is going to take an intentional, clear plan of not just spending, but an articulation of vision and values about what our international strategy is going to be and how defense is going to play into that international strategy. We still have significant ambiguity around what exactly we want to be spending on. We know that the Arctic, for instance, is an area that we have to take exceptionally seriously. We know that our Canadian Forces readiness, Canadian Forces logistics, technology, equipment, etc., requires a significant upgrade and investment. And we also know that in order to achieve even the already promised targets, that's a lot of money that's going to be spent. So who is overseeing and stewarding that money as it's invested to make sure that we don't go off the rails and stay focused on not just delivering on our timeline targets, but delivering on meaningful improvements to our national defense is going to be a significant lift when, frankly, this is not something in recent memory, if ever, that we've ever done. So, when we saw yesterday that suddenly the bar has shifted, we've talked a lot about 2% in our spending as the pressure from NATO. Now, yesterday, it was 5%. That spending for Canada to go from where we're currently spending to 5% would be so significant. And in an era of more economic hardship due to the relationship with the U.S., et cetera, in order to achieve that, the question is, where does the money come from? And we've seen experts like Kim Richard Nossel, for instance, talking about the ways to spend and what options that Canada only has to get the money in order to do that spending. At some point, we have to be asking ourselves, is it a tax increase? Or are we taking money out of other coffers in order to spend that money? Because that is a significant investment.
But when you're all this talk about 2% has been like bumping. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's been bumping up from like 1.4% or 1.6 to 2. Like, you're talking about 2 to 5? 5's not happening.
But I think the other piece is timelines. Like, one of the things that the Trudeau government was trying to do for a long time is, by 2035, this is what we're hearing from NATO allies and from the U.S. is, the percentage is part of the equation. The timing is the other part of the equation. You need to hurry up and you need to get spending, because part of the suspicion, or part of the concern, I guess I would say, is that if suddenly you're the U.S. and yesterday you come out and announce 5% is the expectation, are you just moving the benchmark up continually into areas that that states can't commit to in order to leave NATO? And if that happens, for Canada's purposes, for Europe's purposes, the difference between 2 and 5% ultimately also becomes a significant equation of how are we defending ourselves in the absence of if the U.S. decides to leave NATO.
Yeah, no kidding. We're talking to Dr. Bob Murray. Hang tight. We're going to pay a couple of bills. You can catch your breath. And then I want to talk about the Canada-U.S. relationship and, of course, the impact of some of this, what do we call it? Disunity? The impact of disunity on Canada's foreign policy. More with Dr. Bob. We'll jump into the live chat as well, powered by Park Power. Right now, I want to let you know that we're talking to you on the 15th of May as Northwest Film Fest is wrapping up. And a shout out to everybody that had a chance, our Patreon supporters, our YouTube channel members, to cash in on those complimentary tickets and go take in a screening or two at Canada's longest running nonfiction film festival. You can still catch shows today if you check out northwestfest.ca, but the Rainbow Visions Film Festival, Edmonton's queer festival, is just kicking off. Check out northwestfest.ca for the full lineup. It runs May 16th through the 18th, featuring 20 short and feature-length films, including some retro classics. After wowing audiences at the world premiere at South by Southwest, The Secret of Me continues to mesmerize audiences at festivals worldwide, including Rainbow Visions. Keep an eye out for filmmaker Sandy Dubowski's Sabbath Queen, which is following Rabbi Amichai Lau-Levi's epic journey as the dynastic heir of 38 generations of Orthodox rabbis, including the chief rabbis of Israel. For anybody who's ever felt like an outsider, what about the coming-of-age tale, Griffin in Summer, and Transport yourself back to Edmonton in the late 1990s. So with a special encore presentation of the fabulous Flashback. You can check out more on Rainbow Visions Film Festival on the website. We'll link to it in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcast. If you're looking for a new opportunity right now with your career, if you're an engineer, if you're a designer, if you're an electrician, you've got your ticket, maybe you're an apprentice just kicking off what you hope will be a long and prosperous career, the best move you can make right now is go to kuby.ca. That's kuby.ca. Solar by Kuby is hiring right now. You can check out their careers link for an up-to-the-minute update on all the job postings they've got available, including in Alberta and BC. But check this out. They've got a direct solar sales expert opportunity in Ottawa as well. You'd be working remotely. They got Kelowna, Kamloops, Calgary, Lethbridge, Edmonton, you name it. Opportunity abounds at kuby.ca. They're Canada's fastest growing solar installer. You can also get a free quote anytime if you're looking to go green. Put solar panels on your roof this summer. Today's a great day to check out kuby.ca. If you've got budget to improve your living space, but you're looking more on the inside, maybe a custom closet or storage solution, California Closets of Canada is your best bet by a mile. And it all starts with a free design consultation. Whether you're dreaming of a Murphy bed in that spare room, it's your home office right now, but maybe you've got guests coming this summer. You got to have somewhere to put them, and you want it to be somewhere comfortable that works. Those Murphy beds are incredible. Maybe it's that library you've always dreamed of, bookshelves that look like they cost 3 times what they actually do. California Closets can custom design anything to fit your space and your budget. And it all starts with a free consultation today. Everything they install is manufactured right here in Alberta. They're Canadian owned. It's californiaclosets.ca. And our friends at North Road Investment Council know that there's folks that have questions that are, quite frankly, keeping them up at night. Do I have enough to retire? Is my nest egg healthy enough if I'm lucky enough to live into my 90s? How do I protect my savings from taxes or inflation or a market crash? If these types of questions are keeping you up at night, or maybe you don't even know which questions to ask, then it's time to talk to Marshall and Carrie and the team at North Road Investment Council. Their certified financial planners and chartered financial analysts can answer your biggest questions, and you're going to pay a per-hour fee, not commissions paid by them selling you investment products. It's true independence. Make sure you ask about their digital risk advisory services as well. They're the only ones with a dedicated team member working on just that, making sure that their clients, that their partners are well protected. It all starts with a visit to their website. North Road Investment Council's online at northroadic.com. I love this from Shelby. Johnny, you and I talk about this all the time. Says there was a great California Closets commercial on during the Oilers game, and it got us all talking about them. I think that Stuart Skinner California Closets mojo is working, buddy. I think it's happening. Here we go. Hanging out with Dr. Bob Murray. You want to share your Oilers perspectives with us while we take a brief 30-second break from foreign policy discussion?
Buddy, I'm an Ottawa Senators fan, so I'm still in mourning. I'm in mourning.
What are you in mourning for? You guys made the playoffs. You guys weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. You should be thrilled, shouldn't you?
We lost to Toronto.
Yeah, and Toronto's about to lose to Florida. So
yeah, but we lost to Toronto. That's my Stanley Cup.
Okay. Carney's first meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump appeared to go reasonably well. They respected each other. Carney was pretty clear that Canada is not for sale. Trump appeared to accept it and seems to have moved on from his 51st state talk. What's something that you were keeping a keen eye on in that meeting?
Well, it was actually the respect piece. Was it going to be another Zelensky-esque ambush, or was it going to be an actual conversation to try to turn the temperature down between the two states? Bear in mind that the expectations for that meeting were fairly low. And so Mr. Carney kept calm, didn't take the bait. I think Trump did try to bait him a couple of times, and I think Carney handled it fairly well. Also, though, remember that the morning of, you had Trump out on his socials page saying, 51st state. He was still reiterating some of that rhetoric to try to, ramp up that base, knowing that what he was going to say later. And so I think coming out of that, the hope is that it's the start of a serious conversation about the future of the trading relationship in particular, but the relationship more broadly.
Yeah, I was at the Nisku Energy show yesterday, and a couple of dairy farmers came up to me, and it was just like, I love the conversations we have there. There was solar on entrepreneurs and dairy farmers and all these talk. One guy that does these like sprays on the inside of pipelines. They're talking about how they can use bitumen derivatives to wrap pipelines that'll prevent leaks. I mean, I was learning something every 5 minutes. But you can understand the dairy guys wanted to talk about supply management. They want to talk about that relationship with Canada and the United States. Everybody in their own industry has kind of the one thing that's top of mind for them. In these negotiations and in these talks with the United States, finding what works for both countries, what should Canadians be prepared to compromise on, to surrender, to move forward with, to reconsider? What are a couple of key points the Americans will be looking for that Canadians should be thinking about too?
Well, I think what we've seen from the Trump administration is that trade, it's never just isolated to trade. Trade is attached to a bunch of other things. And so trade is going to be attached to things like national defense and NORAD. Trade is going to be attached to the Arctic. Trade is going to be attached to other Trump administration priorities. In terms of trade alone, it is no secret that successive U.S. administrations have found our supply management stance to be of incredible frustration. And even within Canada, we now have, folks starting to voice that maybe it's time that Canada start considering changing its position on supply management. Beyond that, the reality is that we are living under an agreement that was negotiated during the first Trump administration. Canada did move, Mexico did move, and Trump saw that movement was going to at least appease him for that time. Now what we're seeing is that agreement no longer seems to be of interest. And I think the other side of this is, how do we navigate a trade relationship, or what we have heard from the administration on tariff, even tariff relief, is that under these so-called trade deals that they're looking to sign with the UK and China, they are not deals yet, they are frameworks for deals, is that the 10% tariff still becomes the basement in the minds of the US administration. Is that going to apply to us? What sectors will that actually end up applying to, et cetera? And so with that in mind, how do you approach the relationship and how do you approach the conversation that if we are going to be living long-term, and it looks like, at least for the foreseeable future, we are going to be living in a trade relationship with our American partners where tariffs are going to play a significant role, what other points of potential negotiation or leverage do we have to try to alleviate not just the financial and economic pressure, but the political side of trying to advance the conversation with an administration that really has decided that these tariffs are integral to how they define the future of American prosperity, rightly or wrongly?
What do you think? What sort of an impact, if any, do you think that I called it internal disunity? But these rumblings. We just talked about it with Philippe Fournier, in particular on the prairies. But disunity between the provinces and the feds. What impact do you think that might have on Canada's foreign policy, if any?
Well, bear in mind that we have a long history of provinces being foreign policy actors. We're very used to the provinces having their own offices in different parts of the world and actually conducting their own foreign policy. When you negotiate a trade agreement with Canada, you don't negotiate one-to-one. You negotiate with a series of other parties, being the provinces, at the table. And so, the difference in our, confederal system versus a federal system becomes incredibly important when we look at the way that foreign policy is conducted and economic development is conducted, et cetera. And so certainly if you don't have a united team behind you when you're out in the world trying to strike trade agreements and trying to push economic and political agendas along, it becomes incredibly difficult, because what you can do in some cases, if a state doesn't get its satisfaction on something very specific from the federal government, they can engage with the provinces directly. More than that, it's if you are sitting across the table from Mr. Carney and you know that Mr. Carney doesn't have the support at home that he needs to actually leverage or sign the deal at the way that you would probably want it to be, how seriously are you going to take that negotiation with Canada? And so, Mr. Carney has to pay attention to his internal political situation. He has to take seriously what he's hearing from the provinces, and that's all provinces and territories, and to be able to start bringing people together in meaningful ways. In the first 24 hours after the announcement of his cabinet, his cabinet did not do very much to reassure people that was going to be the case. You have already different messages on pipelines, you have different messages on housing, et cetera. And these are key issues that the provinces are very interested in their own right, as well as in their relationship with Ottawa. And so, and every cabinet, by the way, every new cabinet makes gaffes. That's going to happen. But certainly for the pressure on this cabinet, given the internal political situation within Canada and some of the regional tensions and regional differences, you'd think that there would be a higher onus on making sure that at the very least common messaging was going to be followed. And in 24 hours, that went all to hell. And so trying to pull some of that back or trying to navigate those pieces for a new prime minister that seems very disinterested in answering hard questions or being questioned at times is going to be a really interesting thing as to how he handles his own caucus and cabinet behind closed doors, as well as what his move is to try to reassure Canadians coming out of those competing messages in day one.
Yeah, Canadians still getting to know him, right? Like you evaluate this with every new leader. Like there's kind of a bit of a honeymoon phase. But then obviously shit gets real, and it gets real in a hurry when you're the prime minister, of a G7 nation, et cetera. And obviously we'll continue to keep a keen eye on it, and we'll continue to look to your expertise. Thanks for making time for us. Hey, weird question. You're obviously a bit of a fit guy. You got your pipes out today. For the podcast listeners, you're wearing your short sleeves, the biceps bulging. Have you ever?
It's just for you.
Have you ever heard of anybody running 10 marathons in 10 consecutive days?
No, my knees hurt even thinking about half of one.
Dude, we're about to talk to two guys that are going to run 10 marathons in 10 days, 10 consecutive days. Like, there's no smoke and mirrors here. 10 consecutive days in 10 different provinces.
I'll stick to political science.
Okay. It's good to see you, Bob. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure you give Bob a follow on X at Dr. RWM. We'll link to that in the show notes. These two marathoners coming up in just a second. I can't wait to hear what motivates them and how they're going to pull it off logistically. Never mind physically. How are you logistically going to pull it off? But first, for those of you that would rather maybe enjoy 18 holes riding a cart, does that sound a little bit more doable? I want to let you know that the Ranch Golf and Country Club is open right now. They're Alberta's busiest tournament course. They've got more than 120 tournaments going this summer, which is amazing. That's good news if you're putting a tournament together and you're looking for a little expertise, not just on hole activations, on merch. They can also, of course, hook you up as well. We always go with steaks at the Real Talk Golf Classic, a nice steak dinner. That's coming up on the 19th of June. You can register on our website, RyanJespersen.com. But their team can put together whatever vision you've got. Maybe welcome your guests with a nice breakfast, maybe roll out, whatever it is. You can all, tour the ranch. You can tour their facilities, including their clubhouse, and then you can take a look at each of their 18 holes as well. Again, on their website, hole one is just such a great way to start it off. Nice big drive, dog leg left, pitching wedge in, and then putt out for birdie, right, everybody? Isn't that always how it goes when you're golfing? Maybe not always the case with mine. Anyway, regardless of what happens, it's always a great day at the ranch, and you can check them out. Book your tee time today or inquire about a tournament by checking out theranchgolf.com. If you're thinking more post-secondary than golf this summer, you don't have to wait to fall to kick that off. Did you know the team at Athabasca University is ready for you as Canada's open university with world-class accredited online degrees and courses that meet you where you're at. They're designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. Open your options with the online offerings at Athabasca University, where your only commute is to your device. They've got more than 50,000 program and course alumni from over 100 countries. And it's no wonder that folks report more than 94% satisfaction. Because get this, more than 9 out of 10 AU alumni that are surveyed say that they're in a job related to their field of study. Not every post-secondary can boast that sort of job placement. Learn more about how AU works or apply today at athabascau.ca. And a big shout out to our wonderful friends at UCAN Youth Services. I'm actually swinging by UCAN HQ later today to pop in, say hello, and meet some of these young people who are participating in their different programs. They're doing amazing work for young people. I mean, as young as 12 years old with their Relentless outreach program. And then they've got a couple of ready for work programs. These are basically, in some cases, paid opportunities for participants that they just need a door open. They just need an opportunity. The Road to Work program is a wonderful example of that. It's designed to support youth aged 18 to 24 to get the skills and safety training necessary to enter the construction, roadwork, and traffic safety sectors. If you know a young person 18 to 24 that's quite frankly striking out and they need a new opportunity, they need somebody to believe in them, could maybe use a little help along the way, but you know that they're enough of a self-starter that given that open door, they'll make the most of it. make sure you refer them to UCAN Youth Services. You can learn more. You can make a donation. You can talk to them about corporate partnerships if you're hiring at entry-level jobs, all by visiting their website. That's ucan.ca. All right, these next two. Ever since I heard about this, I have been really, really looking forward to talking to these two. This is the 10 in 10 in 10 marathon challenge. And while you're listening to this, you can check out their website, 10in10in10.ca. Mike Hanson and Dave Morin are about to embark on a $1 million fundraising effort that'll take them across the entire country. I've never heard of anything like this before, and what a pleasure it is to welcome them to the show. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for making time for us. How on earth are you going to pull this off? 10 marathons, 10 straight days, 10 provinces. I've never heard of anything like this.
I mean, if I have to say short, we'll do it one step at a time and one day at a time. Well, yeah, we start tomorrow, Friday, May 16th. We're here in St. John's, Newfoundland. We flew out a couple days ago, and yeah, we'll take it 1 minute at a time.
Where's home for both of you?
We're both from Calgary, Alberta.
Both from Calgary. Is this your first time that far east?
Yeah, both of us first time in St. John's. It'll be the first time in the Maritimes for me as well. Yeah, so exploring new areas this way.
Amazing. Have you guys been running, are you guys avid marathoners? Have you guys been running buddies for quite some time? How did you come together here?
Yeah, I mean, we've ran together for quite often. I started running in 2014. Dave was around the similar time frame. We worked together initially at New Vista Energy, starting in, I think, 2013, 2014, and been good friends after we were no longer working together, I guess. But Dave's run 44 marathons or something like that.
43, but checking tomorrow, I'll have run 44.
Yeah, there you go. I've done 30, 33. So we've ran a lot over the last decade or so here. So this isn't brand new ground running marathons, but it is brand new ground doing 10 in 10 days in 10 provinces.
No kidding. I mean, I'm going to be careful when I invoke the name of arguably the greatest Canadian of all time, when we talk about Terry Fox. But I remember trying to wrap my mind around what he was doing with his Marathon of Hope and running these. I mean, it's one of the greatest human achievements of all time, I think. And but just you try to wrap. I mean, I remember even as a child learning about that and trying to wrap my mind around and let alone as an amputee, but the beating that a body takes in running 42 kilometers. And then I can't imagine trying to do it again the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. So how physically are you preparing for this?
Well, I'd say, I mean, that's one of the things. And when you mentioned Terry Fox, we're here in St. John's, and just this morning we got out for a run and went by mile zero in the memorial to Terry Fox. We can talk about it physically. Lots of people have asked us, is this an impossible task? And of course, we've got folks like Terry Fox, there's other runners, heroes of ours that we look to who have done this or more and to kind of pave the path for what's possible. From a physical standpoint, we've both been working hard over the last, especially year and a half, focused specifically on this and training for this and getting the body ready. That looks like mornings. I think Mike got up to 180 kilometers in 1 week. But we're working on, of course, the cardio, the strength, the stretching, and also trying to take care of sleep and nutrition and all the other elements that factor in as well.
Yeah, no kidding. We've got Alberta Rancher is watching us right now in the live chat, says that they also are preparing for a marathon this weekend, but it's the Deadliest Catch Marathon. I think they're just going to have a remote in hand. They're not going to be doing it. So you guys, why are you guys doing this? You're looking to raise $1 million, and we want to make sure that we're shining a light on that. Talk to us about your fundraising efforts, where the money's going to go, and why you care so much about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the focus of this. Dave and I like the physical challenge, and that is part of it. But how can we take something like that and turn it into, a lot of money for charities? $1 million is a big target for us. To date, we've actually raised, I think, what does that say on there? 700 some. We've actually are a little over $800,000. So the charities you see on the screen there, like Autism Asperger's Friendship Society. For me personally, that's one I'm very connected to. I have twin boys that were diagnosed with autism about 13 years ago. I've seen the benefit of organizations like that. My wife and I have always had the ability to provide for our boys what they needed. Not every family can, and organizations like that can be huge to get kids into activities. Kids sport, both Dave and I grew up playing sports and wouldn't be where we are in life without sport. And for some kids, it's just a financial barrier. So how do we help get those kids onto the field? And then Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Dave was a mentor there for the better part of a decade. And he's seen, and, we've talked like firsthand, it's such an important program. Some kids just don't have that mentor. So, we are able to, with the help of people from Calgary across Canada, can impact a significant amount of kids with this charity initiative. So it's exciting for us.
I love, and again, 10 and 10 and 10, the numbers, not the words, 10 and 10 and 10.ca. People can learn more about the cause. They can make donations. I love that you have the option for people to donate directly to the charities, which is wonderful. And Mike, I'm just reading this on the website. You have committed to matching donations up to $150,000.
Yeah. I mean, this, like, I don't want to stress enough, I guess, on this with my wife and I, we are all in. Like
your wife knows that you've made this commitment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I maybe bumped it up a little bit that I didn't tell her initially on above 150, but I mean, we're like, I wanted to demonstrate to anybody, I've gone to some people that I know have financial resources and have asked for significant amounts of money. And I just thought it was an easier thing to ask when I could demonstrate to them what I'm willing to do for this event, whether it's physically from the training standpoint or from the financial standpoint. I'm all in on this. So I hope it can inspire some of those other people to maybe dig a little deeper as well and help us reach our $1 million goal and impact so many children.
This is remarkable. So you guys have already raised like $740,000. Which is incredible, right? You've secured commitments for about $740,000, so you're looking to raise another $250,000-ish.
Yeah, I mean, just as of this morning, like about an hour ago, we got an update from Canada Helps, and we are at $805,000
wow,
raised.
guys!
So just since we updated the website, it's been another 65. We're kind of getting blown away by the support we're seeing from folks in our network. We're starting to see folks that neither of us know. So this is people hearing about it on shows such as yours. So we're super grateful for the opportunity to share the story. We had one that came in from a WestJet flight that we took out here. One of my seatmates donated. So it's coming from all angles. Also have to give a big shout out to corporations across Canada. We've had something like 22 corporate sponsors who have showed up in a huge way, donating directly to these charities as well. So coming from all over the place, all across Canada, corporations, individuals, friends and family, large donations, small donations, all of it is critical to get to the $1 million and impacting kids in this way.
Yeah. So here, let me jump into the Real Talk live chat. These are all compliments, I assure you. But Steph says these guys are absolutely nuts. Melissa says these guys are incredible. I really admire their commitment. Ken K says good for these guys. Lauren says these are the Albertans that we love. Dwayne's wondering who are your influences to do this type of thing. I mean, you referenced that moment. You had a special moment today at Mile Zero at the Terry Fox installation there. But did you have other influences that sort of contributed along the way or influenced you to do this?
I mean, for me, I can say that one of them is sitting beside me. The seed of this comes from Mike, and Mike's been a mentor and a friend of mine for a long time. And to get to partner with him on this has been a huge thing. I look up to Mike as a friend, as a father, as a member of the community, and that's a big deal for me.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, the Terry Fox is definitely incredible what he did, and that doing the multiple marathons is definitely part of it. But like, I mean, the inspiration in a lot of ways comes from my own kids and what I've seen with them. And then, I've seen like the organizations like Autism Asperger's Friendship Society. I know the director well, Dean Svoboda is his name. And, people like that run these organizations. We met Kelly from St. John's, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They dedicate their lives to these things of impacting kids all the time. I don't have that where I have a job that I dedicate to giving back to kids, but I see what they do and it inspires me to do what I can. So, the people that run those organizations are a huge inspiration for me.
So, fellas, tomorrow we're talking on the 15th of May. A lot of people are going to hear this the day you're running. It'll be the 16th of May. You'll be running in St. John's, Newfoundland. I love that you've secured sponsorship for 8 of the 10 marathons, which also means you've got sponsorship opportunities available for title sponsors of the runs on Sunday, the 18th of May in Charlottetown, PEI. And you've also got availability for title sponsorship on the 24th of May. That's a Saturday in beautiful Vancouver. I was out there, by the way, a couple of weekends ago as the Vancouver Marathon was running. It was just amazing to see so much enthusiasm around that. People can check out, again, 10in10in10.ca to make a donation, including those title sponsorship opportunities on the 18th and 24th of May. You never know who this interview will reach. We might as well put that out there. Are these like sanctioned marathons? I'm assuming you've mapped out 42K, you're going to run 42K, or are there going to be, like, if someone wants to run alongside you, can they do it?
Yeah, so the first question being sanctioned, only the final marathon in Calgary is at the Service Calgary Marathon. So that's official. We're both registered as racers there. And given that that's where we come from, we kind of planned this whole thing in order to finish there, to cross the line with friends and family at the official marathon. The other 9 marathons are all unsanctioned events. So as you said, it's 42-kilometer routes in each city. These are largely based on the local marathon routes, but with some adjustments. We're trying to minimize elevation. We're trying to avoid road crossings. We don't have any police escorts or road closures for us, so try to keep it safe. You asked about runners joining us. We've got about 150 runners so far who have communicated with us that they'll be joining us in different parts across Canada. We are inviting folks to join with us. At the end of the day, this is a fundraiser, so we're welcoming anyone who might be interested in running alongside us, whether it's for a kilometer or 5 or the whole marathon, to consider donating and to consider fundraising as well. We've kind of been blown away. I think we were just looking this morning, about 35,000 of the total raise so far has come directly from runners who are running with us, who have taken this on and are fundraising within their networks.
Yeah, and if somebody's really, really bored, at the bottom of that list of cities you have, there's a live tracker button.
It's so cool.
And you could follow a blue dot go along a red line for 4.5 hours. So if you're not busy at work, you could see where we're sitting right now, where the blue dot is here at the Synovus office, who has, I think you saw in there too, is the marathon sponsor for St. John's, and it's my employer. That's who I work with. So they've been a big partner with us as well. But yes, follow the blue dot if you got nothing better to do over the weekend or next week at work.
I'm trying to figure out if I can burn calories by watching your blue dot. I don't know. Are you guys flying everywhere? Do you have like vans or people driving you? You can have like massage therapists in the back. Like, logistically, how are you making it happen?
Yes to every one of those questions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a combination of flights and driving. So we flew out here from Calgary. We'll be flying after the marathon tomorrow directly to Halifax, where we pick up an RV and we'll drive through Charlottetown, Fredericton, Montreal, and Toronto. We'll fly to Winnipeg, drive to Regina, fly to Vancouver, and fly to Calgary. So it's a busy logistics schedule. We're about to print off a 22-page doc for the crew to just manage minute by minute what's going on. We are lucky. We've got a big crew with us. My wife, Sydney, and my brother-in-law, Tom, and one of Mike's friends, Tyler, is joining us here. So we've got a crew of 3. One of the big things, we don't want to be behind the wheel, both for safety. We'll be pretty tired, and the other side of that is so that we can be stretched in the back of the RV and doing physio, stretching, and maybe catching some Zeds along the way. Yeah.
And obviously they've got to put you in the, like, if you're not in first class, at least in the seats by the emergency doors on the planes. You're like, we can't have you guys crammed in, some guy's lowering his seat in front of you and you got a marathon coming up. JJ says, I'm going to be honest, my first question in participating in this would be, how do I not die? JJ goes on to say they're going to let their friends and family in New Brunswick know that you're coming. Make sure that they're going to get more donations in for you there. JJ says, mad props to you both for this fantastic cause. Guys, honestly, like there's like 150 comments in here. Just know, I mean, we could sit here and read them all and pump your tires, but just know that people are behind you on this, including the Real Talk community. Again, we're going to direct people to 10in10in10.ca, 422 kilometers to make a difference. Mike Hanson and Dave Morin going to raise $1 million. I think you're going to raise more, guys, by running 10 marathons in 10 days in 10 provinces. We don't usually do this, but I want to put you on the spot, and I want to ask you to join us again. You wrap up in Calgary on the 25th. That's a Sunday. Would you be willing to join us on the 26th of May, on the Monday? We'll find a time and maybe just let us know how it all went.
Yeah, assuming that we're still living, breathing human beings, I'll be there. Yeah.
I feel like a bit of an asshole asking you to do it because you guys are going to be bagged, but we have to ask you about it. You might have to show us your heels too, or like I know that marathoners, like, what do you do for the nipple rub? Like, isn't that? I see bleeding nipples all the time. You guys are going to shear those things right off.
It's a science. It's a science to protect those. I don't know if we want to disclose it. It's not the most pretty thing to look at, but yeah, there's a plan.
Guys, I'm just meeting you right now for the first time, and I'm already proud to call you a friend. We're all cheering for you. We're going to make a donation. I know that Real Talkers will as well, and we can't wait to talk, assuming it works out. You let us know behind the scenes, but we'll hope to talk to you on the 26th of May.
That would be
Amazing.
great.
Thanks so much for
Thank
having
you.
us on.
Hey, go
Appreciate
get them,
that.
fellas. Mix in a water. Go get them tomorrow.
Yes.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you very much.
Unbelievable stuff. Can you wrap your mind around that? 422 kilometers over 10 days in 10 different provinces. I don't think I've ever heard of something like that before.
No, I'm not doing it.
People are talking. Well, Johnny, maybe real talk. Maybe we could do some sort of a fundraiser. I do see in our live chat, Cam in the pizzeria is he's going to go try to achieve the 999 challenge this summer. Have you heard about this?
No.
Baseball fans are familiar with this. I've heard of somebody that attempted it at a Toronto Blue Jays game. Somebody that I know personally. It's 9 hot dogs and 9 beers in 9 innings, and I think it is doable. You'd need to have somebody bringing you the beers and the hot dogs. I think if you were waiting in line, you had to go buy them. I don't think you could do it. But I would like to see Cam in a pizzeria pull it off at an Edmonton Riverhawks game this summer if he could. We are getting some suggestions in here as well. Thank you for all of nipple experts on how you can protect your nipples. Have you seen these photos for people that are like running marathons?
Oh, yeah.
They're all smiling.
chafing.
They're cheering, and they've got their medals on, but they have these 2 red circles, these bloody circles on their T-shirts. Oh, my
yeah,
gosh,
it
the
happens.
absolute
It's a
worst.
problem.
Yeah, no kidding. Cheryl outside with $10 into the super chat says a couple of beers for these guys at the finish line. Cheryl, I love that. We're going to take your $10 and we'll direct that toward a donation for them, and we'll make sure that there's cold beers in the fridge for those 2 as well. Hey, we wanted to get to a couple of your emails before we wrap today. We took a day off. We're out at the Nisku Energy Show. Johnny, of course, holding court down at the Moss Pit as the Oilers have dispatched the Las Vegas Golden Knights, and we'll move on to face. Who do you think? I'm going to say Dallas. I think Dallas is the safe pick. That's going to be a hell of a Western Conference final with those 2.
I mean, I want the Canadian teams to go on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Leafs Oilers final would be insane. Jets Oilers Western Conference final would be awesome. Like, let's get them all in there. But it looks like both teams kind of crumbling. A lot of people calling. I don't want to piss off because I know there's Jets fans listening right now, and I love all the Canadian teams. But a bit of a, I don't want to use the word fraud team, but like, I don't know, just not doing it in the playoffs the way they did in the regular season at all, you know?
Yeah, I know. I parlayed. I was telling you this.
Which is surprising. They have the best goalie ever.
They do. Yeah. Well, yeah, one of them. I'm so disappointed. I had a very good feeling that the Canadian teams were all going to win their games over the past couple of days, and so I parlayed a wager.
All 3?
Yeah, all 3
Nice.
of them, put them together. So I put together the Leafs beating Florida, I put together the Jets beating the Stars, and then, of course, the Oilers beating Vegas, and Toronto screwed me. It was going to be a big one.
Like
And then
Toronto, what? Man,
They laid an egg. What were they doing?
You know what I saw? The greatest meme ever. I'm going to show you after the show. We're going to laugh so hard. You know the Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
You know the scene when they're on the boat and they're like, hey, oh, it's like Toronto first 2 games. And then you know the scene where they're in the crazy typhoon and they're like, Toronto, game 3 and 4. What the fuck is going on? It is but like, look, what was it, 2005 last time they were in second round, or 2008, 2007, whatever. It's been almost
In the
20
Eastern
years.
Conference final, yeah.
Since they've been out of the first round. So it's like, dude, I guess any kind of improvement is great for the Leafs. But, man, when you've got a team like, when you've got Austin Matthews.
Yes.
And when you've got, a goaltender whose last name is Wall, who has been showing up, been really great.
Yeah.
And then just crumbling. And, of course, me and you both don't want to see Tkachuk in the final again. God damn it, get out of there.
I know.
Get out of there.
Wise Kyle says Connor hella suck.
No.
Dubious says
No.
that Toronto game was dismal. Ms. B says that game was a brilliant wrapping up of Vegas. Like, you guys know, I know I don't need to say this. And of course, there's a lot of shouts out here as well. I think it was Seventh Pilot, giving Skinner his due for 2 shutouts back-to-back. Super happy for Skinner. He's just a wonderful guy. He's a wonderful human. You know, it was a very difficult stretch for him, so it's great. Hopefully he's getting his mojo back in time. In time.
He's got to have some kind of, there's got to be some mental health conditioning going on, because it's like he's a whole new guy. He's all like, he's calm, he's collected, he's square in the paint now. Where
Here's
before
what I
he
think.
was like, but also, let me say one thing before you come in. that other game could have been his too. That 0.4
That's
game,
what I
he
mean.
could have been on a 3. That was just, I don't want to say Draisaitl's fault, but that was going wide.
It was a weird.
Could have been 3 in a row.
It was such a weird thing, and the Oilers almost swept them. Was it Rod Brindamore last year that was like when the Canes got swept? And he's like, he's like, but we didn't get like swept. And everyone's like, no, like you actually did get swept. You
But
lost in 4 in a row.
context matters.
But
Like hockey is
so
like
it kind
60
of feels,
minutes, right?
It kind of
Like-
feels in a way like the Oilers were as close to sweeping as you can get without sweeping.
Yeah,
You
but
know
like
what I mean?
last night's game, the Oilers won. But if you watch that game, that was a very tight game. Could have been anyone's
100%.
game. Could have been anyone's.
Lauren says, I'm afraid of Dallas's goalie of Ottinger.
He's
I get what you're
scary
saying.
good.
I want to say, I don't want to use the word afraid, Lauren, because we're not afraid of anybody. We're the Edmonton Oilers. But I will say I'm a little bit afraid too, because Dallas from the top to the bottom of that roster is rock solid. And they've just got Heiskanen back, one of the best defensemen in the league. Dallas is a wagon. I said that the other day to
They're
somebody.
all wagons, we said.
I
though.
said that to somebody. I go, Dallas is a wagon. He goes, everybody's a wagon
But
at
Dallas
this stage.
is scary good.
Yeah, 100%. And I love this from Tara Lynn. Tara Lynn says, I thought Cam in a pizzeria was kidding. She says 999 is an actual thing. She says, I'm game to give it a try. She says, but I might have to spread those innings over 9 games. No, you can't. Then it's not a thing. It's got to be 999. I'd try it.
Yeah.
9 beers in 9 innings. I mean, you'd be, I
9
mean, that's
beers?
not for everybody.
Maybe
Could you eat?
in my heyday when I was like 25, I can't even drink like 6 beers now. I get so bloated. I just
Well, and also
switched to
9
I
hot
switched
dogs.
to drinks.
Like
you know?
how much sodium
Yeah.
is it in 9 hot dogs?
And it's just all
Cam,
that salt, all that carbonation mixing together. Whoa.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll volunteer to do this, and I'm dead serious about this. I'm recruiting you. I'm tapping you on the shoulder. If Cam's serious about this, real talk.
I have to do it?
No.
Okay,
Can
thank
you
God.
imagine? You're like, what would that be? Workers' comp or the Alberta, whatever the rights board would be? My employer's force. We're not doing that.
You know when you give a seagull an Alka-Seltzer and the pop? That's
Don't
me.
do it.
I would
Don't
explode.
Don't do that. Kids, do not do that. But how about you and I go with Cam? We'll pay for it, and we'll make a YouTube short out of it.
Yeah, entertainment,
Cam, the offer is on the table.
feature content value. I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, there is major content. It's going to end up being our most watched video of all time.
But back
Which
to the
I don't know
Oilers.
what that says about the show.
Back to the Oilers. Like whiskey in there says we beat Otter last year. It's true. And also, like, if I want the Oilers to win the cup, I don't want it to be easy. We went up against Vegas. A lot of people are saying Vegas was going to sweep us. We handled them. If we're going to win the cup, let's beat the best team. I say Dallas is scary good, and I'm scared, but really, the guys are up to the task.
And
right?
everybody's pointing, yeah, like you said, we beat them last year. By the way, Cam in a Pizzeria is in. And we're not joking. We're not joking. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. This is going to be disgusting. And it's going to be unbelievable. Shall we get serious for a second? Let's get serious for a second. You know, we send out, by the way, if you don't subscribe to our email, make sure you do. It's free. You just go to ryanjespersen.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, sign up to receive our emails. And as I'm able, I send out my thoughts on some of the interviews that we've done in past, some of the highlights you might have missed, let you know about events we have coming up. It's kind of a cool behind-the-scenes look. I told you about our email subscribers about our interview with Jesse Shuchuk just the other day. It was our most recent episode on the 13th of May, talking about her menopause mission. We stepped outside kind of our normal wheelhouse. We want to do that. We want to do it like at least once a week and just do a different show. And boy, based on your feedback, did we realize that we touched on something that more people need to discuss. Talking about perimenopause and menopause, it prompted an email from Lisa, who wrote into talk@ryanjespersen.com. Johnny, she just says, thank you. She says that show, the 13th of May, was so timely and so informative. She says menopause is something that very few people talk about, and even fewer women are prepared for. She says it makes life so difficult, and it makes work life even worse. Lisa says, trying to make sense of the moods and all of the things that come with this change. And Lisa, you touch on something so important. Jessie talks about it. She talks about the productivity challenges that are associated with menopause. She talks about employers maybe not being as leveled up on their understanding or their awareness of it as they need to be. She talked about women 40 to 55 years old, the number of women that are resigning, that are leaving their careers, including executive positions. You know, as everybody's trying to get more women, more equitable equitable representation in boardrooms, as an example. More and more women are leaving the workplace because of these symptoms of menopause, and some of them don't even know that it's menopause, especially Jessie. She's talking to us. I mean, her story, you got to check it out. So powerful. It's our 13th of May episode on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Jessie talks about how she was suicidal. She says she had a plan. Her daughter came in, found her in bed, laying there crying for like 2 days, and that's when she started getting serious about it. This is an individual. This is somebody that I've known for like 20 years. One of the more confident, talented people. Trust me, we've learned a lot about suicide in the last year. We understand that it's not all about how someone appeared on the outside, but I was shocked to hear that from Jessie. And the minute that she started to understand it was perimenopause, the minute that she started to understand the options that were out there, her entire life changed. I think it's one of the most important interviews that we've done in a long time. And Lisa, we wanted to thank you for that. Another episode that you might have missed, we were talking to Energy Media's Markham Hislop. This was a few days ago, the episode called Fact, Alberta and Ottawa Can Work Together. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, obviously on our YouTube channel as well. Markham talking about the future of the Alberta-Ottawa relationship, the future of Canadian energy, in his own style, hurling some mud along the way, but I always appreciate conversations with Markham. It prompted an email from Mark, who let us know, by the way, Johnny, he has been a listener since episode 1.
Nice.
How amazing is that? Back in November of 2020. Mark, thanks so much. We're coming up on our 5th birthday, if you can believe it. He says, I just finished listening to the pod with Markham Hislop. His short discussion about bitumen products caught my attention. Mark says, as coincidentally, I met a gentleman the other day whose new company is using carbon fiber created from bitumen. Mark, I was hearing about this at the Energy Show. He says, Markham mentioned at about the 22-minute mark of that interview that Alberta Innovates, the organization, is a year away from making carbon fiber from bitumen. He says it's already a thing. The Alberta Entrepreneurs Company invented the technology and the application that uses carbon fiber. I wonder if we were talking to the same guy. Uses carbon fiber to wrap pipe that carries oil or gas or water to prevent leakage when a pipe ruptures. Says this fiber is capable of withstanding PSI loads that any major pipeline would never experience. Says therefore, when a pipe breaks down and ruptures, instead of the contents spilling out into the ground or into the water, this carbon fiber holds the contents within the pipe. Says we could essentially eliminate environmental disasters. What a wonderful, groundbreaking achievement from this Alberta company, says Mark. He says, what Markham's talking about, the other possibilities of Alberta bitumen, obviously there are so many more uses for this incredible carbon fiber yet to be discovered. And I think Markham was right for us to start looking at Alberta bitumen as more than just fuel. Remember, Markham said, I think it was like a direct quote, he said, one of the dumbest things that you can do with bitumen is burn it. Mark goes on to say, I thought it was a great story that supported Markham's discussion with you, and we should start looking at diversifying our bitumen story right here in the province of Alberta. That from Mark. Mark, thanks so much for your email, and thanks for listening since episode 1. We sure appreciate you. And we'll wrap today. This is from Tana, and I did not read this to you off air because I wanted to read it to you on air, John.
Oh, man.
She writes in, no, it's good. For once, John, we're not blindsiding you with criticism.
Great.
Yeah, we're not trying to kill your spirit in front of this audience.
Is it about my hair? I'm just kidding.
Tana loves your new piercings.
Oh, great.
No, she's writing in from New West, BC. From
Oh,
New Westminster,
nice.
BC. Says, I stumbled across an Instagram post from your account, and I fell down the Real Talk rabbit hole.
There we go.
She says it was so great to discover a balanced broadcast on reality. She says, I love Alberta, even though I'm a BCer through and through, and I don't want to see Alberta go through this separation rhetoric. She says, it's really pissing me off. Tana says, I lived in Fort Mac one summer, and I lived for 2 years in Calgary while I was studying at SAIT. Says what an amazing experience that was. Tana says, so I love Alberta, maybe not the weather, but I did love hearing on your show your energy critic. I fear that the stance that Alberta is taking in seemingly staying in the past where oil and gas is concerned, hoping that they'll kind of develop these shoulder industries that Markham was talking about. Alberta owning the technology, it's brilliant. Tana says, but you got to be careful you don't sell it off to the lowest private bidder. And the socialist in me, she says, thinks this would be great for the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund. Yep. Says, does Alberta have a beef about getting product to Tidewater? Yes, but this antagonistic stance is caught up in all this alt-right rage farming of anti-social media. I love that, anti-social media. Says, everybody needs to calm the F down. It is not productive. Tana says, my father was a devout conservative, and when the Northern Gateway Pipeline was being debated, he had a call from the then Harper Conservatives asking if he supported it. And he had a heated discussion with that pollster on the phone about the fact that they were pushing that whole thing through and that it would maybe built by the Chinese, and my dad had huge issues with that. Yeah, he said he supported the pipeline if it meant that Canadians would be building it, but that wasn't in the plan. The Conservative on the other end got mad at my dad and actually hung up on him. My recollection at the time was that the largest issue that most of us in BC had about that pipeline was that it would be Chinese built, not Canadian built. And that was, in my humble opinion, why it was doomed to fail. I might disagree with you there, Tana. I think obviously First Nations court challenges and the Supreme Court chiming in had a big deal there, but maybe you're right. Maybe it didn't have, we talk about social license, maybe it didn't have conservative investor license. I don't know. We could debate that all day. She says this seemed to be lost on conservatives at the time who just frankly didn't really give a shit about Canadian workers or jobs. So the turnaround, this blue collar perception that the conservatives are in support of unions, she says that comes across to me as a huge lie. Tana says, I'm pretty frustrated with all things UCP in your province and this sort of hard right stance that they insist on taking. It reminds me of the Americans. And she says, and I think that your premier, Danielle Smith, is a plant for American interests. Tana says, I'm a swing voter. I'm a centrist. And so the character of the person, the political candidate, matters very much to me. She says, this whole thing, she says, from New West BC, this whole thing on separation is not only stupid, it's maddening. She says, and I hope that somebody... She says, I'm not holding out hope for Danielle Smith or Pierre Poilievre. Somebody can make conservatives normal again. There's a hat we could sell on our website. Says, and I want to give the alt-right crazies the boot. She says, Tim Houston, the new premier in Nova Scotia, seems like a good egg to me. She says, keep up the great stuff. New subscriber, Tana, music to our ears, and we're so grateful you discovered us. You know, you can follow Real Talk RJ on Instagram, on TikTok. You'll find us on X and other social media platforms as well. Thanks to everybody. You can send an email anytime to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Coming up as we wrap today, letting you know about our next episode. That's going to be the 16th of May. We're going to welcome back the two physicians behind the Doc Talk podcast. Dr. Shazma, Dr. Sheila are going to be joining us. We're going to talk, we'll lead off with that measles outbreak. Why is it happening? Why is it happening particularly acutely on the prairies? And then we'll expand our conversation from there. The doctors in the house, if you have a question, they're not going to diagnose you, but if you have a question about bigger picture medical issues, make sure you email us ahead of time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.